It's cold. Mom, help me. My daughter, who was supposed to be at my ex-husband's house, suddenly called me on my cell phone and asked for her help. Even though it was the middle of winter and snow was falling, she was locked in her stepmother's closet for over 4 hours. In a panic, I rushed over and managed to break down the door of the storeroom, and inside I found my daughter unconscious, her body trembling. Sage, stay strong. No matter how many times I call out to her, she doesn't respond with a bloodless white face. I hurriedly got into a waiting ambulance and headed to the hospital with a prayerful feeling. I will never forgive my ex-husband and his new partner for doing such horrible things to my daughter. I clenched my fists and decided to take revenge. I'm Stephanie, 29 years old. My husband, Tyler, who is an office worker, was my classmate at the same high school, and we got married 8 years ago and became a housewife. I was blessed with a child and was living a happy life with my 7-year-old daughter Sage. Around the time my daughter entered kindergarten, my husband started looking down on me, and I couldn't stand it anymore, so we divorced 6 months ago. Of course I wanted to keep Sage, but my ex-husband was vehemently against it. How are you going to raise Sage as a housewife? Even though I wanted to refute his words, I couldn't, but I simply couldn't hand over custody to my ex-husband. The case went to court, but I lost custody of my daughter because I had no income and my parents had already passed away, so I had no one to rely on. Sage, I'm sorry. Mom can't live with you anymore. My daughter cries loudly while hugging me, unable to speak due to tears. No, I don't want to be separated from Mom. I'm sorry. Someday. I'll make sure to pick Sage up as soon as possible. I gently hugged her and crossed our fingers as promised. Sage wiped her tears with her hands and smiled as hard as she could and said, "Okay, I'll be waiting for you." After I started living apart from my daughter, I met Sage about once a month, went shopping together, talked about all sorts of things, and enjoyed spending time together as a parent and child. Sage has become more spoiled than before and is always clinging to me. Sage has so much fun when we're together that time passes so quickly, and when we part, she always has tears in her eyes. Seeing her like that made me feel lonely too. I wanted to move in with her as soon as possible, so I started job hunting, and thanks to that, I finally found a job and was able to make a living. However, I still didn't have enough money to take Sage in, so I worked hard at work and continued to save as much as I could. Then, one day, 2 months after the divorce, I received a postcard from my ex-husband with a photo announcing his remarriage. His new wife, Ava, could see the bulge in her belly even under her wedding dress, making it seem like she was close to giving birth. Maybe he was cheating on me while we were married. I had suspicions about my ex-husband, so I called him to find out. "Tyler, congratulations on your wedding." "Huh? How do you know that?" "I received a postcard with a photo on it." "Didn't you send it to me?" "Oh no." Since my ex-husband was slurring his words, that postcard was probably sent out by his new partner to harass me. "It's great that you look happy." "Ah, thank you." He looked embarrassed. When Sage took over the phone, "Ava is having a baby soon," my daughter told me, her voice booming. Sage. Don't say unnecessary things. I heard my ex-husband's calm voice, but then he hung up on me. I knew it. You were cheating on me even before the divorce. He's always been bad at lying and cheating, so it's probably safe to say he's not good at lying or cheating. I felt sorry for myself for not realizing this until now. After that day, he stopped letting me see my daughter. When I contacted him and said, I want to talk to Sage, he was obviously disgusted. My wife is bothering me, so please don't call me anymore. I just want to meet Sage. Please. Let me see her. Are you trying to destroy my family? Give me a break. When my husband said that, he hung up, and when I called back, he didn't answer. I'm Sage's mother, and I can't even meet her. I was depressed due to frustration, but I couldn't give up like this. I immediately went to a cell phone shop and bought a pink children's cell phone that I liked. I then looked for my daughter who was leaving school near her elementary school. Sage. Welcome home. Mom. When she saw me, her face lit up and she hugged me vigorously. I'm sorry I haven't been able to see you very often. I was lonely, but I held it in. Daddy said, if you're a good girl, you'll meet Mommy, yay. I handed the kid's phone to her, who was having fun. You can contact me anytime, but please don't tell Daddy and your new mommy so they don't find out. Wow. Thank you, Mom. Okay. Don't tell them. Seeing my daughter's joy with sparkling eyes made me smile too. From that day on, Sage and I started exchanging emails every day, and we talked happily about school and friends. Whenever I would ask her, do you have any problems? She would always reply, Mom, don't worry, it's okay. I felt relieved every time I saw those letters. Mommy will always be on Sage's side. I love you, I told her every day. Even though we were far apart and couldn't see each other, I felt happy that I could still connect with Sage via email. 2 weeks later. When I finished work in the evening, it was snowing outside. As I was walking home, shivering from the cold, I suddenly received a call from my daughter on my cell phone. Mommy, I'm cold. Help me. My daughter's urgent voice suddenly filled my ears. My heart palpitated as I heard her words asking me for help. Where are you now? In the storeroom at home. Sage's story is that my ex-husband's new partner kept her there for over 4 hours. I was so confused that I almost panicked, but I tried to calmly talk to her so as not to make her nervous. I'll help you right away, so just wait a little longer. Okay. I understand. Immediately after I hung up, I called my ex-husband's cell phone, but no matter how many times I called, he wouldn't answer. Anyway, I was worried about Sage, so I hurried to my ex-husband's house. When I arrived, the house was pitch black, there were no cars, and no one seemed to be inside. What on earth does this mean? I tried to open the door to the storeroom where Sage was locked, but it was locked and wouldn't open. When I broke open the door with a nearby shovel, I found my daughter curled up in a ball, shivering from the cold. Sage. I'm your mommy. My daughter is unconscious, and no matter how much I call her name, her reaction is weak, and when I touch her body, she is very hot. I immediately called an ambulance and accompanied her to the hospital. Why is this happening? As I was being transported to the hospital, I kept repeating these words over and over in my head as I looked at my daughter's pale face. During our usual email exchange, I was completely relieved when my daughter told me, "Don't worry, it's okay." I wonder why I didn't notice it sooner. I kept blaming myself for my naivety. Furthermore, at the hospital, doctors told me that she was in a very critical condition. I felt a burning anger as I held my daughter's cold hand as she lay in her bed and did not regain consciousness. I will never forgive my ex-husband and his new husband for putting my daughter through this. I will definitely send them to hell. I decided to take revenge on both of them. At night, my ex-husband called me. Apparently, a neighbor told me that I was there when the ambulance arrived at my house. Don't take Sage away without permission. Give her back. Don't interfere in our discipline. I can also hear the yelling of my ex-husband, probably because I'm in speaker mode. I have custody. You can't just do this without permission. That's right. I'll complain to the police. As they made a fuss, I took a deep breath and calmly told them, "Your daughter is dead." Huh? My ex-husband gasped for a moment. After a moment of silence, he asked in a trembling voice, "You're kidding. It's all your fault." Then, in contrast to my ex-husband, I heard his new partner laughing out loud. Ahaha. It's just nice to have no one in our way anymore. She was always comparing me to you, and she never called me Mom, so she wasn't cute at all. I was taken aback. Is that why this woman had such a hard time with my daughter, who was only 7 years old, that she even locked her in her closet? In the first place, I wondered if Sage was really my child because she didn't look like me at all. Even he gets caught up in the words of his new partner and starts talking about it. I could barely contain the anger that was rising in me. She's Sage. Is she really my child? Maybe she was the child of a different man. A lewd laugh can be heard coming from the other end of the phone. It's too terrible to say this much. I don't want to have any more conversations with these scumbags. That's how I felt, so I told her while holding my trembling hand. I'll be handling the funeral preparations, so I'll let you know as soon as the date is decided. I hung up the phone and let out a deep sigh. How can you say such terrible things in this situation? I was so sad and frustrated that I couldn't stop crying. The next day, I suddenly received a call from someone who lives next door to my ex-husband's house. I was shocked when I heard something from Miss Grenfell, whom I had been close to before. I immediately called the location I was given, confirmed the facts she had told me, and obtained some other evidence. Now we can send them to hell. Sage, hang in there. Then, I told my ex-husband, I want to make arrangements for my daughter's funeral, and decided to go to his home 2 days later, on Sunday. And on Sunday, when I visited my ex-husband's home with a man, he and his new partner welcomed us, looking like they felt annoyed. Weren't you supposed to prepare everything? But there are funeral expenses and all that. I don't have that much money. Ha! What a pain. My ex-husband scratched his head, crossed his arms, and spoke in a bossy voice to the man who was sitting with him. Hey, make my daughter's funeral costs cheaper. You'll give us the cheapest plan, so give us a discount. They both seemed to think that the person accompanying them was a funeral director because they had been told that they were having a funeral meeting. Hey, Tyler. Is there really a need to have a funeral? It's like throwing money away, isn't it? I don't think that's going to happen because I have respectability. Well, Sage's life insurance will come in a lot, so it's up to me to negotiate. My ex-husband was looking at me with a dreamy face as he grinned triumphantly. Life insurance. Is that what you want? When I said this, my husband glared at me and said, huh? So I held out the voice recorder in front of him. Before that, please listen to this. What came from there was the sound of his new partner yelling and my daughter crying. Just hearing about her makes my heart tighten. He and his new partner look at each other in confusion. That's not Sage's voice. That's right. This is the wrong person, isn't she? I looked them straight in the eyes as they tried their best to admit that it wasn't their daughter. No. This voice is definitely Sage. You're with her every day and you don't even recognize my daughter's voice. Still, they insist that the voice is from a different person. This time I took out my cell phone and showed them a video. Are you still trying to get away with this? It was a video of Sage being forced to lock herself in a storage room because his new partner didn't like it. The faces of the woman and my daughter are clearly visible in the video. No matter how much you want to make excuses for this, there's no way you can. Why is there a video like this? It was recorded on the dashcam of a car in the parking lot of Ms. Grenfell next door. Nowadays, there are things that are recorded even when you are not driving. She was recording it. The neighbor, Ms. Grenfell, has loved Sage since she was a child. So she told me over the phone that she was concerned about how my daughter was doing after I left home. My daughter's energy gradually decreased and she thought something was wrong, but then she started hearing yelling coming from inside the house. Ms. Grenfell was worried about Sage and called the Child Welfare Center. Ava, you didn't let the counselor see my daughter and turned her away even though the counselor came multiple times, right? It's noisy. Because it was annoying. That's right. It's a nuisance for her to come all the way to my house. It's Sage's fault for not listening to her, and this is her discipline. I did it because I wanted to make that child better. So what's wrong with that? Do you want to discipline her by yelling at her or forcing her to lock herself in a storage room? Don't play around with her. Sage is not your toy. Even so, my ex-husband and his new partner are still smiling. I decided to introduce my companion who was with me here. I'm telling you, this person is not a funeral director. This person is the director of a child guidance center. What? The man, who had been silently watching the situation until then, handed my ex-husband a business card and said, "I'm sorry for the delay in introducing myself." And he and his wife, whose faces turned pale quickly. The director's expression suddenly turned grim toward the two of them, and he said in a cold voice, "What you guys did was a splendid crime." That's such an exaggeration. If you were the director, you would understand that it is your duty as a parent to scold a child who misbehaves, right? That's right. It's all just titles and there's not much to talk about. During this period, they struggled. Come on. Sage even testified to everything you guys did. His mouth dropped open for a moment at my words. Then he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. There's no way someone who went to the other world could do something like that, right? That's ridiculous. Yes, what are you talking about? Ha. They pointed at me and laughed, and I told them with a smile. Oh, Sage is alive and well. What? That was a lie to keep you guys from taking her back. When they heard this, their eyes widened and their mouths opened and closed like goldfish. Sage was a nuisance to you guys, right? You said that clearly, right? Then why didn't you give her custody when you divorced? Well, that's because I didn't want to pay you child support. Ha! I'm tired of you. You're not only the worst as a husband, but also as a father. I can't help but feel angry that this man's true intentions were so shallow, even though he took my precious daughter from me by going to court. From now on, I will take back custody of Sage even if it means going to court, and I will send you all to hell. Stephanie, don't say such scary things. I will give Sage to you. Ha! That's fine, right? It's not good at all. It's your responsibility as her father to reflect on what you've done and make amends, right? I decided to further attack my ex-husband, who still didn't seem to be seriously remorseful. And one more thing. Ava got pregnant before we got divorced, right? What are you talking about? His eyes were swimming, and she looked down, clearly upset. No matter how much you guys cheated, if I investigate, I'll find out for sure, right? I'm going to demand exact compensation from now on, so be prepared. It's okay to say that now. It's enough. Please give me a break from apologizing. There's no way I'll forgive you. That's why I filed a police report. As soon as my ex-husband heard that it was the police, he turned pale and suddenly changed his demeanor, crouched down on the floor, and knelt down on me. I don't want to get caught. Sage is alive. Stephanie, please let me go. Please. With a runny nose dripping from his face, he kept pleading with me to withdraw the complaint, and next to him, his new partner, who had always had a strong attitude, bowed deeply to me. I'm about to give birth. Stephanie, please. Please withdraw the damage report immediately. I despise these two people from the bottom of my heart for their selfishness. The director said in a stern voice, "Why don't you just give up anymore?" However, they suddenly ran to the front door and opened it in an attempt to escape. However, he was arrested by a police officer who was already waiting there. I had nothing to do with it. Ava did it all. Ha! You were the one who told me to lock her in the storeroom. The two of them were shouting loudly and resisting in vain. It was so loud that the neighbors gathered around. Then they were put into a police car while many people watched. Some time later, the court decided that they would serve within the walls. I was finally able to get my daughter back by filing a petition for change of custody. "I'm happy to be with Mom," my daughter says with her biggest smile. In order for my daughter to lead a fruitful life, I was determined